So today's blot is be'emes mem zayin, but we're starting mem vav amid aleph on the bottom. We're starting with the heilige sugya from the reya. We're starting with the reya, which means a long. And Be'ez Hashem soon we'll see video of exactly Baruch Hashem the old daf. The OU had some videos of of lungs and exactly for those that are Mitzias challenged. Be'ez Hashem we'll have the video. But let's start with the Gemara, okay? Zok the Gemara. A Gemara that's seemingly very, very, very identical to what we had by the Moech, but there's really a difference. Zok the Gemara, Rav Shmuel, Ravasi Damri, Karma Ilah, Va'amri Lo Karma Tata. The Mishnah said, Hareya Shenikva, that if the Reya was punctured, then it becomes a treifa, right? So what are we talking about? Which krum, which coating are we talking about of the reya, of the lung? We're talking about, the first one says karma ilah, the amri la karma tata. So there's two very, very thin membranes around the lungs, and these are the membranes that we're talking about that it's called a puncture, that's going to make it a treifa. So
on the outside of the lung.
The coating the lung, right? So far we say two lashonos. Either it means karma ilah, or it means karma tata. Now, does it mean, when it means one, does it mean one with the other, or does it mean one without the other? We'll see Tosfos, we'll see Rashi, we'll see a little bit. And the Gemara is also going to discuss it, so we'll see in a second. But first we start off with the early Amroyim that say either it's karma ilah or karma tata. Zok the Gemara. Am Rabbi Yosef bar Minyumi Am Rav Nachman v'simonech. And what's the siman to know about the karma tata? Clearly, he's giving a siman on the karma tata. Kituna devarda de mancha bareya. What's kituna devarda de mancha bareya? Kituna divided the mancha bareya is a kituna is a cloth, a clothing, a red cloth. The mancha bareya that the lung is put into it. So if you realize what we're talking about over here, there's a play on words. Every siman is a play on words. What's the play on words? Because we're going to see later on that the lungs have one of the parts of the lung, one of the unois, one of the ears of the lung, is called the ununisa de varda, is something that's called a rose. So, and you know that there's a clothing. They had things that they called a clothing devarda, something that was a red clothing was known as a kituna devarda. So the siman, when you're talking about a lung, is kituna devarda, the mancha bareya. So it's obviously, which one is that? That's the lower krum, the lower membrane, the inner membrane, the karma tata, is the one that has a red pigment, and that's the one that's the kituna devarda. Yeah, so it's a play on words because there's such a thing as a kituna, a clothing, a red clothing. So over here also by the lung we know that there's a varda involved. So the kituna devarda, the mancha bareya, is the one that we are worried about, which is the lower krum. What do you mean? What does it mean? What does it mean, the lower krum? Does it mean only the lower krum? If the lower krum got a hole punctured, even if the outer one was whole, it's going to be it's already going to be a treifa. Or when it means that the lower one was punctured, it means the lower one was punctured and the outer one. Like this.
How did he manage to puncture the lower one?
The Gemara. Pshita inkiv law v'lo inkiv tataf. Let's say the outer one was punctured and the inner one was not punctured. V'lo inkiv tata megan. That we know for sure that the lower one is megan. In other words, that's the be all and end all. As long as the lower one is secure, there's no shaila, it's going to be good. Right? We don't care about the outer one. Why? Because the Rabbah, the Amar Rabbah, high Reya, the Iglid, this along the Iglid. Iglid means that it became naked. It was completely unexposed. How? Meaning that the outer full shell was taken off. The outer krum, the outer membrane was taken off. Moving to Amid Beis, moving to Mem Vav Amid Beis. Ka'ahina sumka, like a red date. Yeah. A red fig, a red fig, a date or fig, yeah, a date, yeah, kshera, right? So that's for sure. So we see, right, and the redness is from the lower krum. So that's for sure that the lower krum on its own is good. Enkiv tato v'loy enkiv ilam. If, let's say, the lower one got a hole, but the outer one is still complete, Megan alay Megan. What's the story with that? Could the outer one secure it on its own without the lower one? Pligi baravacha. What?
Which inner membrane? Where is the inner membrane? Is the what?
Is the tata. So if the inner membrane is punctured, but the outer membrane is complete, is that good enough or not? That's the question. Yeah? Pligi bar ravacha v'ravina. Chad ama loy megin. V'chad ama megin. So it's a machlokes if the outer one could be megin on itself. So the Gemara v'hilchis are megin, that the outer one could be megin on its own. So bottom line is the halacha we have that what? That say the outer one could be megin on its own, and say the lower one could be megin on its own, right? That's what it comes out, l'maskanas haGemara, right? L'maskanas haGemara. We started off with the Gemara, we said that that's pashit, that the lower one could be megin on its own because ahina sumka, and we're paskini that the outer one could paskin, that the outer one could be megin on its own. So both of them could be megin. So Teifrek Toisvis. So now it's shver in the Gemara before when the army lo karma tatam. Yeah. If the one is saying that if the karamatata, what's the machlokes? The one that says karamatata means that the lower one is punctured. It's going to be a problem l'chuli alma. So then, which psak is he going like? That was Taisus' kasha namad aleph, but I don't want to mix anyone up. Let's move on. Kidirav. How do I know that the lower one is Megan? Kidirav Yosef. The Amar Rav Yosef. Hi Reya the Afsha. A raya that makes noise. Now, why would a raya make noise if we blow it up? We'll soon show how they would blow up a raya. But there is some communities that still have a minig today, and it's a big shmuz in halacha in the Rishonim already. If the minig is to check every single raya by blowing it up and seeing if the air comes out. However, right, we'll see exactly what that sugi is. But l'maisa, hi reya da'avsha, if a reya is, when it's blown up, it's making noise. You hear noise passing, right? So if you hear noise passing, oh boy, it sounds like there's a leak. If you know where the wind, where it's coming through, you know exactly, you're able to find the area where the sound is coming out. So, but you don't know if it's puncturing. So masvina lagatva roika gila, you put something very light, like a feather, or a little spit or something over there by the spot where it's making noise, and to check if the air is getting out. If the air is getting out, it's a treifa. And if not, this is where the air is coming. This is where it's making noise, and it's not getting out. Obviously, it's fine. It's good. If I can't, I see there's air here, but I can't figure out where the air is coming from. I hear air, but I can't figure out where it's sucked there. The same, we know this problem. This is something that we're very, very familiar with bike tires, right? Exactly what we do with a bike tire or with a car tire. What do? You put it into water. Suck the water. It's a Gemara. If you don't know where the sound is coming from, you bring a bucket of water, but Sakti Gemara has to be specific water. Pishuri. Make sure it's not hot and not cold. It's lukewarm water. Why? And you put the whole reya into the water. Now, why does it have to be lukewarm? Very simple. Sakti Gemara. Don't put it into hot water. Because it's going to shrivel it up and it's going to close up the holes, and you're not going to, even if it was open, you won't find the hole. And don't put it into cold water, because if you put it into cold water, the metarshi, it makes it very hard. It makes it brittle, and if it's going to make it brittle, then it might break through, even though it wasn't punctured originally. Ella, my svina bibshuri. Make sure you put it into warm water. Okay. And then we do a second blow. If it starts bubbling. So treifa, obviously the air is getting out. If not, it's kosher. Why is it kosher? It's making noise. Very simple. Because tata inkiv ilala inkiv. If it's not bubbling and it's making noise, obviously the lower krom got a hole. and the outer crumb did not get a hole. So you hear the air leaving the inner crumb, but it's not coming out of the outer crumb. So therefore, when there's a hole in the lower crumb and not in the outer crumb, you would hear the sound, but it won't bubble. And Memela it's kosher is a raya from this Gemara that it is Megan, that the outer one it could be Megan even if the lower one has a hole. That is the Gemara. That's how this Gemara is.
It's like a simi that's not a treifa.
Now the lumdis we'll try to get in some lumdis. This is exactly how it works. But
the hole itself is not making it into a treifa. It seems like.
No, it's not inkiv. It's not inkiv. It doesn't have a hole.
If it's part of the raya, it's a
If you look here, if you look closely here, they have a picture here in Chulin Illuminated. He has a picture where you see just the outer membrane as gishmak, because it shows you that the outer membrane is taka not red. It's taka not red. It's taka see-through. This is not where the redness comes from. It's just a outer thing, and there's a hole inside. So when they blew up the raya, you see just a bubble of the outer membrane sticking out, but the inner membrane, and the outer membrane is whole. So this would be fine, even though the inner membrane has a nekev. That's a gewaldige geschmack picture of the karm b'ilah versus the karm b'tata. Okay. Zok the Gemara. Kufa Amar Rava, yeah, and this Gemara Be'etzem, yeah, Craig talks about it. This Gemara Be'etzem, we're just bringing it in because we're going to bring in a whole bunch of other Ravas, but we're not giving any chedushim on this member of Rava, which we just had. Kufa Amar Rava, Hay Reya the Iglid Ke'ahina Sumka Kshera, or a lung that is peeled, iglid. It was completely undressed, like because the complete karmeli law was taken off. Kahina sumka, it's kshera. Yeah, ve'amarav zok Rava ve'reya sheidima miktsasa kshera. Rava says a reya, and we're going to see Be'ez Hashem on Amud Beis of Mem Zayin Amud Beis, which is today's blot, a lot about the different colors that could happen. This Gemara is just a little bit, and this Gemara, there's going to be steers from this Gemara to the Gemara in Amud Beis, on the Gemara in the next blot. It got somewhat reddened. Not obviously the pink of a regular lung. We're talking about it was reddened. If it was somewhat red, it's kosher. Kula treifa. But if it's completely red, then it's a treifa. Amalei Ravina l'Rava. So Ravina tells Rava, no, you can't be mechalik between half and whole. If somewhat is kosher, then the whole thing is kosher. And Ravina is going to bring a raya from shiratzim. Now we're going to go with Rashi's pshat. There's a fundamental machlokes Rashi and Tosfos in how to learn the difference in between the shiratzim and the shmoyne shiratzim and shar shiratzim. But we're going to go with Rashi. The way Rashi learns is like this: that the shmoyne shiratzim have a significant or they have a significant high. They have a significant, their or is considered durable, right? So therefore, if you see one of the shmoyne shiratzim has a black and blue mark, you see red under the skin. The pshat is that he obviously got a chabura, and it's not through. And Mamela on Shabbos, you're going to be Mechal Shabbos from that, for having made a chabura. The blood didn't drip out. Big deal. It has a thick skin, so that's why it didn't come out. Mashen came by the shar shiratzim, the other shiratzim that are not the shmoyne shiratzim, their skin is not significant, and therefore, if you see redness, it's not important because it's just a little bit of a little scrape. It's not a real chabura, and therefore you're not chayiv on Shabbos. That's the difference between shar shiratzim and the shmoyne shiratzim. Zok there. So Ravina asked Rava, how could you be mechalikim between miktsasa and kula? Milay Tanya, didn't we learn? V'shar shkatzim v'ramasim. In other words, all the other small little creatures that are not the shmoyne shiratzim, which don't have a significant skin, Until the blood comes out lamaisa, just the redness is nothing. Because if you see redness, it doesn't mean anything. They don't have a significant skin. Right away, you'll see redness right away if it just got a little clop, even if it wasn't a chabura. Right? Miloi Tanya. It has to be that it came out blood. So just because this raya is red, big deal. Who cares if it's red? Red, it doesn't mean anything. By it doesn't have a significant skin. Redness is nothing until it breaks through. The teretz is you. So why are you saying that if it's completely red, it's a problem? The teretz is that you're considering the krum of a reya as a skin like a shmoyne shratzim. V'chitem el shmoyne shratzim edaminan la. Titanya elamai, you want to consider the krum of the reya like the shmoyne shratzim. Titanya nitra adam afal bishla yotza. Over there, if we just see redness, since it has a significant skin. So if you see redness through the skin, obviously there's a chabur on it. Even a little bit is already a nekev, and it should be treifa. Ella loishna. So by red, it doesn't make a difference. That as long as that if it's red, it's fine, even if it's completely red. Let's keep on moving because there's a lot of other gemaras. If it's somewhat dried out, treifa. V'kama. How much is considered? How dried out does it have to be? It has to be so dried out that if you touch it, it's gonna fall apart. Sagt die Gemara, what do you mean? It's a machlokes tanoim legabe something else. Where's a negeya? Benegeya a mum by a bechor. And over there it's negeya if the ear is dried out. The Tanya is what's considered an ear that is yevesha, that's dried out, that it should be a mum shim tinkev the ena moitzia tipas dam. The Tanakama says that it's already considered dry if blood doesn't come out. It doesn't have to be so dry that it's going to fall apart in your hands. As long as blood doesn't come out, that's already dry. Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam Omer. Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam Omer. By the way, Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam was from a very a unique group of Tanoim that was from the Chsidei Yushalayim, I believe, or something. Rabbi Yosef ben Amshulam Omer Yivesha. It has to be so dried out that it will crumb with his finger nail.
It's from the videos that Rabbi Stefanski has.
Zakti Gemara. I feel so. What? So how could Rav Papa Yisrael the Rava say that the share is Kadesh Nefrachas B'tzi Poyin? It's machlokes Tanoim what the share is. Zakti Gemara. The machlokes is only over there by Bechor, because by Bechor it's exposed to ear and it's not gonna be easily healed. It's out in the open. It's the ear, right? I feel, but so that's why the Chacham Machmer over there. I feel Taim Rabban Gabi Oizim Bechor by the ear of a Bechor the Kashal Bazika that the ear it's exposed to ear, it's not going to heal. Avoreya, avira, but the lung, which is in a secure place, it's it's locked in the chest, is the kashal be'avira hadra bari. It's going to become it will get better much quicker, and therefore, if just because it's ena mitzvah adam, even the chacham will agree that doesn't make it a yevesha, doesn't make it a treifa, and therefore it will be the chacham will agree in this case that the share is nefreches b'tzi payin. Yeah. So the Gemara v'Amar Rav Hayrei the kaima gildi. Gildi means it has different makas. Ochni. This is very, very important because we're going to come back to this on Mem Zayin Amud Beis. Ochni is black, and black is a problem. Ochni is a problem.
Translate scab like spots.
Okay. Ochni. That's gildi. Ochni is black. Right? Chazusa are other colors. We'll see which colors we're talking about here. What? Yeah? Chazusa, different colors that are kosher, kshera. Certain colors are going to be kosher. The Gemara is going to be married on base. Rashi learns.
Uchmi is not brown.
Uchmi means black, but we're going to see that certain other colors are included in the color of uchmi. Like blue is included in uchmi.
Matzara there. You don't call it.
Ein makifin bebui. Now we're going to see this is actually a very, very famous Gemara because Rashi brings this down all over Shas and Chumash as a riot that the lashon of makifin means to put two things close to next to each other. But the halacha is not so negeya. It's negeya. The halacha of ein makifin bebui means that we're going to see certain times that if you want to compare if something is healthy and not healthy, right? So we'll put one next to each other to see if it has the same color. Zok Rava, but if let's say you're talking about buoy, what are buoy? Buoy are a pimple. And a pimple, I want to know if this pimple came because of a hole in the lung or became not because of a hole in the lung. So what am I going to do? So my answer would be I'm going to take this pimple. What?
It's called a blister.
Or blister.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I'm going to take now. This one has a hole right now, but I don't know if the hole happened now or the hole happened earlier. So I have a Mari de Geitza. I'll take another pimple, and I'll poke it, I will puncture it, and see if the two colors if the two pimples look exactly the same. If they look exactly the same, so then obviously they're similar in nature. And if they're not, if they don't look, the color doesn't look the same, they're different. They're of different type. One has a hole, and one doesn't have a hole. That's his plan. Zok Rava, you can't do that because pimples, or blisters, since they're changing colors constantly. So if you're going to try to compare the two, you won't be able to compare the two because even if they don't look the same now, it could be this looked like that at a different time, and therefore a makif mebui. That's the halacha of a makif mebui. The next Gemara is the most famous Gemara, possibly clearly in Elu Trefus, maybe possibly in Chulin itself, and this is the sugya of a sircha. The sugya of sircha is that by lungs we check for animals develop a certain some kind of a connection, a piece of something that connects different parts of the lung to a different part, to one part of the lung to the other. That's called a sircha. And those sirchas are a treifa. If it has a sircha, it's a treifa. And there's a massive machlokes Rashi and Tosfos why it's a treifa. And that's the first thing. What's the problem of a treifa? What's the problem of a sircha? Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. Let me just show you what a sircha is. 1 second. Here he has a picture of a sircha. This is a real live sircha. Here's a piece of an attachment from a lung to some fat. That's a sircha. That's called a sircha. Now, what is the problem of a sircha? Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos, a massive machlokes, is very, very important. Rashi learns that a sircha means, where does it come from? He says outside the lung there is no, outside in the cavity, in the chest, there's no makom for a sircha to develop, there's no wetness. Where does the sircha come from, Rashi? It must have come that there was a hole in the lung, and the wetness that's in the lung has all different kinds of vapor from the air, and that vapor pushed itself out and it created a sircha. So if you see a sircha, it must be that there is a hole in the lung, or there was a hole in the lung. If there's a hole in the lung, what's the problem? The teretz is because this is a krum sha'ala machmas maka. In other words, this is a krum that happened afterwards, and some will last, like Rashi, some won't last. That's how Rashi shita is. So bottom line is the problem with a sircha is. The problem of a sircha is that it's a proof that there was a hole, and most of these sirchas will not. It's not gonna stay, and therefore, since it's not gonna stay, it's a treifa. It's a nekev, and it's not stuffed up. That is how Rashi learns. Tosfos learns fakert. Nothing happened yet. But Zok Tosfos, since there's a sircha there, the sircha, under certain circumstances, is going to pull away, and it will make a nekev. And since it's going to make a nekev, what? And since it's going to make a nekev, what? It's already a treifa now. Because soifeli nokev. Now, there's a very, very interesting shmooze over here. There's a very interesting shmooze. What happens if you have a heart this is a moed getzushtol to this lump. This will just bring out this thing. What happens if you have a heart that has a nail in the heart, but it didn't go through and through, right? So the Rishonim that say that it's a problem. Why? Because it's seifel linakev, right? Frek the Beis Yosef. Maybe I'm messing up the people. Maybe I don't remember who it is. So the place can say, "What do you mean? Who cares, seifel linakev?" But right now, there's nothing wrong. Who cares? Seifel linakev. What happens if somebody's running after an animal with a gun? He's seifel linakev. He's gonna have a hole. But right now, nothing's there. A seifel linakev until now that we always had was only where the pshat is an animal is sick. There's something wrong with the animal. The question is if the animal is going to get better or not. No, the animal's not going to get better because it's going to only get worse. He's going to be a seifel linakev, right? However, but by a nail in the heart, what do you mean it's seifel linakev? But right now, nothing happened. When it'll get a hold, that's what I'll worry about it. That's when it'll become a treifa, right? Zok the Placey, I don't understand what your kasha is. I have a case of a seifel linakev that there's nothing wrong with it now, but it's already a treifa. What's the case? Zok the Placey, our Tosfos. Because Tosfos is mechadesh that there's nothing wrong with this animal right now. 85% of American cows have sirchus. Who cares about it? No one cares. Well, no one cares about it. The Torah says it's seifel linakev. Who cares? There's nothing wrong with it now. But Avo Pikain, Tosfos holds that would make you a treifa because it's a seifel linakev. That is a very, very important fundamental shaila. And what a sircha is a sircha or proof that there already was a neked and it was stuffed up and it might just this stuffing is not good enough for to become a streifa, or is the problem with a sircha that a sircha is seifel linakev. Fundamental machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. Fine. Now, one more thing. Why do we check for sirchas? That is the question. Why do we check for the sirchas? So, kipshutoi, there's the famous reason that the reason why we check for sirchas and every single tabach checks every animal. They always right after the shchita, they slit open the stomach, and they put their hand in and they check around for sirchas. Why do they check? So the Rashba discusses it. Now, the kipshutoi, the reason is, and so many Rishonim say this, is Rashi said it. Many Rishonim say because since it's shchichi treifos, by the lungs, so therefore that's why we check for sirchas. What's the problem? The problem is like this. There's a big machlokes, and I mentioned it before. There's a big machlokes. How do you check for sirchas? What's the minig? Is the minig to just put your hand in, or is the minig to blow it up as well? Now, if the minig is if the minig is to blow it up, very gishmak. The pshat is because since it's shchichi sirchos, and Rashi holds that every sircha comes because it had a hole. So you have to check and blow it up as well. Because why? Because if sirchas only came because of a hole, right? So how could you not blow it up? Maybe it had a hole and the sircha didn't develop yet. So rather you would have to blow it up. However, the lemaisa, there are many that hold that forget that you don't have to blow it up. So if you don't have to blow it up, so why? Where did this minig in Klal Yisrael come? And it's a minig kadmoin admoid. It's brought down in midrashim even that you check for rei. It's the only treifa that we check for. Why are you checking? What are we checking for? Who cares about the reya? Who cares about a sircha? And we're not worried because of shchichi sirchas. What's the right? We're not worried about shchichi treifis because we're not blowing it up. So what is the problem? This is the kash that Rashba says. So Rashba says two svaras which are very, very, very similar, but they're two geshmaka reasons. So the Rashba why we check only for sirchas and we don't blow up the reya. So the Rashba, I'll tell you why. There's something unique about the treif. There's something else besides that it's so commonplace. The sirchus of a reya. There's something else very unique about the sirch of a reya. What's unique about it is that it's visible. You see it. Every other treifa, unless you check, you're not going to see. Sirchus you're going to see. Zok the Rashba, two svaras, two different svaras, and there's nafkaminis la'aloch in these two svaras. One svara, Zok the Rashba. we're afraid like this. What's going to happen? People, if we're not going to check the reya, right? We're not going to check the reya, right? And so right away the tabach is going to go and he's going to sell meat, and everyone's going to take it home, and they're going to put it in their cholent pot, and then mitamol, somebody's going to open. They're going to continue selling, and then also they get to the reya and they see, oops, there's sirchis. Oh, they're gonna put out word, and people are gonna have to start. They're gonna have to start breaking their dishes, and many people are not gonna be saying. We don't want that, Dr. Rajba. So therefore, since, in other words, we're gonna have to retroactively tarfin things up, became the minig that we check for sirchas. That's pshat number one. Again, so why? So it's very gishmak. Like this pshat, it's very gishmak. Why we don't blow up? Because we don't care about a tray for that no one's going to find out about. But something that people are going to find out and they're not going to listen. That's a problem. That is pshat number one, Dr. Rajba. Pshat number two, Dr. Rajba. Pshat number two, Dr. Rajba. Why a different reason? And that is because it's a genai. Every other treifa that you have to look for, okay, we could be saying big deal. We don't have to check. But over here, Dr. Rajba, it's ufanecha. You just see it, and memela we can't. It's like being ma'alamayin from it. Excuse me, we can't be ma'alamayin, and therefore we check for sirchas. So Dr. Rajba. What's the nafkamina of the last two svaras? A gewaltige nafkamina. What'll happen if somebody comes and he wants to take, like the Gemara had before, he wants to take from the Beis HaShchit, he wants to take a piece of flesh right then, right? So, like the first svara, it's a problem because we don't want to take meat because we're afraid we're going to tarfin up the kalim retroactively. However, like the second svara, it's no problem because I'm not being malamayim. The reason why I didn't see the sircha is because we didn't yet dissect the cow, and as a Dr. Rajva, so that'll be enough kamina in those two svaras. Okay, one last more thing, and then we have to learn the Black Gemara. What do we do l'maisa la'alocha about sirchas? So kipshutoy, that's the problem. Sircha, if an animal has a sircha, it's a problem. What are the eitzes? So there are eitzes. What are the eitzes? The Beis Yosef himself says, and it's again the Rishonim talk about it, and there's mitzarecha, there's a problem of treifus. On the other hand, there's a svara of gval gehefsid moment, right? So the Beis Yosef says one eitzah. He has one eitzah that if you put your hand down, and he says that only your shemayim could do it, and if the cow belongs to a yid, again, obviously, and because we're worried about being mechalim moinu shel Yisrael. So Dr. Beis Yosef, if you put your fingers, the two fingers, around the sircha, and you push down, and it pops off, that didn't come from an ekev. As Dr. Beis Yosef, that one he's making. There's another place where they're makel is if when he puts his hand in, these little ririn, they call it, little things that doesn't hold up the hand. It just gets like his hand goes straight through them. That's also not a problem. What happens if he finds a sircha, his hand doesn't go through it, but when they take out the reya, they rub it, they roll it, and it falls apart. What's that? That is a very famous machlokes hapoiskim, and we're all very familiar with that because we all know there's such a thing called glat and glat Beis Yosef. What's glat Beis Yosef and what's not glat Beis Yosef? This shaila. If they found ririn and they rubbed it, they rolled it, and it didn't fall apart, so not like the Ramah, it's okay. But the Beis Yosef was machmer. So the Beis Yosef is machmer in such a case. There is one more eitzah which the person poiskei zmanenu much more later use something called kiluf. I don't know exactly how that works, but kiluf that we are samech on kiluf is somehow if you could peel it off somehow, then it's a raya that there was no nekev, and that's fine as well. Okay, that is the three eitzes, the Beis Yosef eitzah of popping it off, or just his hand running through. Then there's mefarches biyad, and there's kiluf. Okay, so the Gemara, we better move on. Zok the Gemara. Oh, so now let's see it inside. If somebody had two of the uni we said the lungs we're going to see soon. The lungs they have the two bottom ones are the umus. The two main big parts is called umus, and on top of that there are ears. Let's see if we could here. Here he has now. This lung, if you realize, this lung never looks like this because when the animal is like this, this is the bottom is the head and the top is towards the feet, right? Well, so when the animal is hanging from its hind legs, right, the lung doesn't look like this. Why doesn't the lung look like this? Because the lung fell down, right? He grabbed on the top. He grabbed with two visors. He grabbed it from the top to be able to show you what it looks like. So, and this is a lung when it's not blown up, when it's all collapsed. So the bottom two. Here, I'll show you over here. The bottom two, these are, right, really the bottom two, but over here he's showing them as the top two. These are called the umois. These are the umois, are the big lobes. Then on this side there's going to be 3 ears, it's called 3 separate ears, and on this side there's going to be 2 separate ears, right? And then over here there's another one, you can't see it in this picture, that's like a round one, it's called unanisa de varda. That's called like a rose. And that's like what we spoke about a rose in the simon, that was this unanisa de varda. And over here is the heart. Okay, good. And they're all attached, another important thing, they're all attached in the back, they're attached all as one whole. Maybe we'll see that. 1 second, let's see if we can see that real quickly. He's going to turn it around. When he turns it around, he's showing the umais. And maybe he's not going to show it around. 1 second. He's not showing it around. Okay, he's showing the things, and that's the unanisa de varda over here. That's the vered over there, and the back it looks all whole. It looks straight. In other words, you don't see any separations. Okay, we can't see it. He's counting the 1, 2, 3, and the 3 on the 3 ears on this side and the 2 on this side, and here's the heart. I can't get voice out of it, but okay. Let's go weiter. Sagt die Gemara. Okay. Hani tarti uni. If you have 2 ears, 2 of the bottom ones, not from the top ones, the 2 bottom ones. Now, what's the story with the top ones? Aganza Arichas and Rashi. We're not going to go into that. Hani tarti uni desrichin adadi that have a sircha one to the other. Less lubedika. There's no eitzah. You can't be baidik. There's no eitzah. There's nothing you can do. Meaning that they're not 2 unois right next to each other. Avol kesidron. But if they're lying right next to each other, hainu revisayu. So exactly what hainu revisayu means is not exactly clear. Tosfos has 3 svaros, but Rashi basically says that again. The problem with a sircha is that even though it's stuffing up the hole, Rashi says, remember, sircha comes from a hole and it's stuffing up the hole. The problem is it's not going to last. So Rashi depends. If the pshat is their ears that are not next to each other and the sircha, each lobe is pulling in a different direction, it's not going to last. But if they're right next to each other and they belong next to each other, so then they're going to stay. It's going to last. And memela, the sircha is going to keep the hole stuffed up and it's good. Moving to today's block, Mem Zayin Amar Aleph. V'amar Rava, Hani Tarti Bui, the Smichi L'Hadadi. Rava has a Kabbalah, we don't know where he got it from. Rashi says he had a Kabbalah that if you have 2 pimples or blisters that are right next to each other, if they're right next to each other, it must be that there was a nekev right there, and that's how two pimples grew right next to each other. Hani tati bubi dismichi la'adadi less lu bedikusa. There's no bedika. There's for sure a hole. There's nothing to look at. But let's say you have 2 pimples. It looks like one, but it has a line in between. You can't figure out if it's 1 or it's 2. So check out if it's 1 or it's 2. How do you check out if it's 1 or it's 2? You make a test. You bring a thorn, and you make a You puncture in between them. If the liquid from one runs into the other, chadi, that's considered one. I'm sorry. You puncture one, and if all the liquid runs out from both of them, it's one pimple, and therefore it's uksheir. It's no problem. It's two utreifa. This is another very famous Gemara. Hey uni isla. Now Rava doesn't tell us anything about the umma. He doesn't tell us anything about the lower big lobes. He only talks about the ears, the oini. And he says, hey oini isla. Hey oini isla l'reya. Now, apa klape gavra, when the mouth is towards the right, it's when the mouth is towards the person that's looking. In other words, the sheikhet or the baidik. Once he opened up the stomach, and now the stomach is facing him. Apa klape gavra klasa miyamina, like we showed on that picture, on that video. You had klasa miyamina, 3 ears on the right side, and tarti mismala, and 2 from the left side. Now, I'll just tell you that the Lamdim are very, very busy with this Gemara. They're very, very busy. I mean, the Paiskim also, but the Lamdim especially, because Rava says 2 things. He says, first of all, hey, Aini Yisrael, there's 5, and then he says that there's 3 and 2. Why do you have to say both? He should have just said that there's Tlasi Miyamina, Vitati Mismala, from the fact that Rava said 2 halachas. He said, first of all, that there's 5 einis in total, and then he said that there's 3 and 2. Vaistais is 2 separate dinim, and it's negeh by chaser neyesa. There's a lot of Torah about that. These verta in Rava. So tomorrow vaita chaser yeser. So Rava, if it's gonna be missing one of those ears, it's a problem. Or yeser, if it gets more. Now, if it gets more, there's a murdiga klal in elutrefis, which is yeser kinotel dummy, which means that anything, whenever you have an addition, it not only is that not counted, but it subtracts something, a corresponding one. So, in other words, if let's say an animal has 2 hearts, so we don't look at it like he has an extra heart. We look at it as if he has no hearts, because the yeser is kinotel dummy. It's like whatever it has, it takes away its corresponding one. If it has an extra leg, it doesn't. We don't look at it as it has 5 legs. We look at it as, or 4 legs. We look at it as it has 3 legs. So Zokt Rava, that just like if it's missing your oini, it's going to be a problem. If it's a yatir, if it had an extra one, it's also a problem. Why is it a problem? Because yes, it cannot dummy. So it's just like a chaser. Now, the Gemara is going to say that over here we don't say yes, it cannot dummy. The Gemara is going to say we don't pass like Rava. Oy Chalif, 2 more minutes and then we'll finish. What time are we supposed to stop? Oy Chalif Treifa. Yeah, 2 small Gemaras. Oy Chalif, or if it's mixed around, in other words, instead of having 3 here and 2 here, you had a fakert, 3 on this side and 2 on that side, it's treifa. Hahu zokti Gemara, hahu yiserta dasay l'kamei de merema. You had a yiserta, which means it had extra ears, extra of these oini. That came to the sheikhet or the baidik brought it to merema. The fapsak was all a ton. Have a Yosef Rav Acha above it. And Rav Acha was not inside. Rav Acha was standing, was outside by the door. He was just he was the doorman. He was welcoming people. So when Sheikhet came out, he left. He must have left with a nice big smile. So Amalei Rav Acha asked this Sheikhet, "My Amalach, what did he say?" So the Sheikhet told him, "Amalei Achshor Nihila, he kashed it for me." Amalei Hada Ayla Kamei. Go back in. Why? Because Rav Acha knew the psak of Rava that a yeses kinatel dummy, and therefore this is a chaser. So how could it be that he would paskin? How could he be machsher on a chaser, something that's missing a oini? Right? So Mamela he sent him back. Do over. Sent him back. He assumed that Merema had not realized that there's an extra una there. Amalei, so Merema, when he came back in, Merema said, Zil Amalei Lamandi Yosef Ababa, go tell the guy outside by the door, less that we don't pass like Rava, we pass like Rava, Rashi says, by the other two, by a chaser and a chalif, we pass like Rava. But when it comes to adding, no, unais, it's no problem, less Hilchzik Avasa the Rava B'Yaseres. There's a lot of lamdas to talk about over here, but we don't have time, we're getting to the bottom of the Rama. And that's only if it's along the same line. That means in the back, they're all attached. So it looks like one big line. You can't see the differences only on the bottom. But in the back, they're all... So it has to be B'dar Dudi. Avu Beini. But if, let's say, it's on the top or it's on the bottom, then it's Treifa. So the Gemara, but there's a story where it was a Beini, and what's the halacha right there? There was a lung that had a beini, and this is a murdig shvar gemara. But there was a lung that had an ear, had a una that was in the middle. Right now, which one was that? We know what it was. It was the unanisa devarda. Every single lung has that. Right? That's going to be the shvarkeit in this gemara. But let's hear how the gemara says. There was a lung that came in front of Rav Ashi that had a ear in the middle, right? In the middle, like we saw over there. It has one in the middle. It's called the unanisa devarda. So Rav Ashi lemitrafa. Rav Ashi wanted to make it treif. Why? Because we said that the yiseris, if it's not kind of b'dara du'uni, it's a treif. Amalei Rav Huna mar Baravia kol hani chivyi briyasa hachi islu. Every animal outside has this durudu, has this durudu, and has this the kari like tabachi, and the tabachi have a name for it even. They call it unanisa devarda. Unanisa is lashon una. Unanisa, the aleph is mischalef. Unanisa devarda. Yeah, avol agaba afilu kitarfa da'asa treifa. We're going to stop here. Let's just clarify this gemara. So what happened over here was that there was a unanisa devarda over here. So the question is, right, and therefore it is kosher. Sak Rashi. So there's a massive machlokes Rishonim what the case is. But Sak Rashi, what are we talking about over here? Obviously, not from the fact that Rav Ashi wanted to say it's treif, even though we don't know of such animals. All animals have unanisa varda. It must be that an animal could go without this unanisa varda, and they had animals that didn't have the unanisa varda, and therefore Sak Rashi la halacha will be that if you don't have a nisa devarda, it's fine. It's kosher. V'haraya, Rav Ashi knew of many animals that didn't have it. Yeah, that's what Rashi says. But Zok Rashi will come out another halacha that if, let's say, you have an animal that has two nisa devardas, then it's going to be a seris, and it's going to be a problem because the only thing that he kasha was one and not two. However, the Rishonim bring down another shita that it goes the other way, and this is what we're going to stop with. That obviously it can't be that Rav Ashi ever found an animal without an Nisa Devarda. So it must be that he was talking about that he found an animal with two Nisa Devardas, and Memela were kashering one with two Nisa Devardas. So it comes out as far as Safuchas. Like Rashi, we're going to be machsher if it has none, but if it has two, it's going to be a problem. And like the other Rishonim, if it has none, avada, it's a treifa. But if it has two, that's what the Gemara is coming to be machsher.